Influencers, inspiration, and Instagram. This is Earned by Tribe Dynamics. Here's Conor Begley.
Welcome to Earned. Thanks everybody for joining another podcast. And I think today is going to be one of the best ones yet. So for this podcast, we try and bring in the most interesting people that we can find across beauty, fashion, luxury. And I think Riccardo is one of those people. So Riccardo's background. Yeah, thanks so much for joining, Riccardo. So in terms of Riccardo's background, he was the co-founder of The Blonde Salad with Chiara Ferragni, which went on to become one of the most prominent and early fashion blogs. From there, he went on to co-found and invest in a variety of other companies. He's also now a senior advisor at the Luxottica Group, as well as a former senior or current senior advisor at Condé Nast. And then personally has over 300,000 followers as well on Instagram, which is, I would say at least 295,000 more than me. So quite a bit more, maybe 299,000. I don't know. I haven't checked in a while. So anyways, I'm really excited to talk to Riccardo today. We're going to learn a lot about content creation, business, investing, etc. But yes, thank you so much, Riccardo. We really appreciate you taking out the time.
Thank you, Conor, for this invitation. I'm absolutely honored to be one of your guests and one of Earn podcast guests, and I really can't wait to start and share some cool contents together.
Totally. Well, let's start at the beginning, just so people have a good idea of your background. So you went to university, and you did your undergrad in finance and economics, and then your master's in marketing. And I know that, for you, at least in one of the other interviews I heard, you kind of started on the finance side and said, this marketing stuff is much more interesting, which is funny because I did the exact same thing, literally the exact same thing. Undergrad, finance, economics, master, or I didn't get a master's, but then doubled in marketing because I was so interested in it. Talk to me about that. What drew you to marketing in the first place?
The thing is that... marketing to me it's really the pure essence of understanding the market, creating something if in the market there is a need, I want to fill that need, to satisfy the need with a product. So in the real concept of marketing, I really see that in kind of understanding the market and giving a solution for a problem. So I really like this process, So first of all, starting from the understanding of the market, I think that I always had a sort of sensibility because I always said that first of all, I am a consumer almost of everything. So for sure I can understand almost everybody consuming things. So why don't putting this sort of sensibility in trying to make it a bit a more structured process, in understanding the market and providing solutions. So basically, that was really fascinating for me about marketing. So I decided to move from finance and economics and getting a bit in that let's say field. And then I realized that the great aim of marketers is not just understanding the market, but it's creating the demand for something, not just giving the answer. So I found it even more interesting. So I kind of really like the psychology that there is behind the marketing in general. Probably, psychology, it's behind every kind of interaction where humans are, for sure. But as marketing, it is made of understanding the market, creating something, understanding how to distribute, how to promote that, what kind of product. It's all about, all these interaction, all these habits, this evolution of the consumption. So really, I find it really, really fascinating. And I have to say that during my master's, I really realized that I was really enjoying studying. That was something completely new to me. So in that moment, I got that probably I was on the right path.
Yeah, I think once you find those signals, oh wow, this doesn't feel like work. This is just so enjoyable for me. Indeed. That, it's not even I want to do it, right? And I think on the psychology side, what's really interesting is I feel like for me, I was always really attracted to economics as well. And what's interesting about economics and the way that it's evolved is, behavioral economics have become a much bigger kind of component there, which essentially is integrating psychology with economics. And so for me, although finance, economics, and marketing are considered somewhat separate, I think there's a lot of common threads there, and that psychology is actually fairly important to all of them. But that's really cool. I think creating is a really cool thing. It's a fun thing to take something from nothing to existence, right?
True. Exactly. It's exactly that.
Well, so, I guess while we're on that, we might as well talk about the blonde salad, right? So that was a big part, that was basically immediately after school, right? So from what I read, you discovered it, or you thought about it on an internship in Chicago. And then from there, came back and started it with Chiara. Can you tell us a little bit about what was it initially that you said, this is the thing I want to do, right? Straight out of school, this is the thing, social media, blogging, because this is 2000, was it 2009 or 2010?
2009.
Yeah.
So, in reality, the blonde salad was born during the master, not even after, but during the internship in Chicago. So I was working as an assistant in a marketing office of a company, of a consumer company. And for the first time, because in Italy, the let's say the direct to consumer approach was a bit backward compared to United States. But when I was there, I really experienced how important the opinion of digital, let's say, customers were for us. So as an assistant, as an intern, I was all the day reviewing all the reviews on Amazon of our product, or interacting on Facebook, or checking what the industry blogger they were saying about us. So all these kind of things. I really realized that our company was really sensitive to those kind of content, to those kind of consumer. So, and opinion leaders. So I started creating, this kind of sensitivity to that topic. And at the same time, I was seeing as Chiara was super passionate about fashion and photography. She was posting a lot of things on various mixed, social media. So I said, why don't you build up just your little world, your community around that passion, because for sure it's going to become something interesting in the future. But obviously we didn't know absolutely nothing, because we didn't have any kind of benchmark. We were just understanding that there was an opportunity, that the people like us, we were seeking for new kind of entertainment, also related to fashion, because before that fashion was basically just on magazines, because no television, no radio, small cinema. So it was just, magazines. Yes, some website, but still very, in a very, let's say, old approach. So for sure something was meant to happen, So we just started like that, but really without any kind of expectation. And I have to say that for me, one of the most important thing was really the timing, because I started 1 year before finishing my fashion. So when I literally bought the blonde salad domain, and I created a blog on HTML coming from finance and marketing. So I spent a couple of days trying to understand just how to log in into the platform. But basically then it worked out. But at that point, we didn't have any kind of expectation, but at least I was studying, so I didn't have nothing to lose, So I would just went back to Italy. I went on with my exams. I finished the masters. I did this thesis, dissertation, whatever. But in the meanwhile, in those, let's say, 6-9 months, the blonde salad already was collecting more than 30,000 visits per day at the blog. So at that moment, already was quite easy to understand that it was becoming something big. There were the first platform that they were emailing us and saying, "Oh, guys, we follow your blog. Do you want to put a banner of Luisa Via Roma or Asus or Yux on your website?" And us, we were saying, "What the fuck is this?" I really, for me was,
it's not a bad thing.
Okay. Yeah, indeed. But it was something completely unexpected. So I started learning what was CPM, what was CPR, what was affiliation program. Like we really started getting in a world that was completely new, and we were absolutely not planning to get into. So when I finished my master, I got a couple of opportunity of working into big corporate. But at that
Mm-hmm.
moment, I said, okay, like I will always be on time. I mean, in time to get on that train. Right now, there is these things that is super fascinating. It's something that because there are no rules and there are no benchmark, I'm not afraid to do mistakes because no one can point out on me and say you are making a mistake. Yeah, I always thought about that. Like there are no rules. It's easy. So we just jumped on that and we tried to put all our energies, and it was fun, like literally it was just fun because we were taking picture, traveling around the world, going to cool events, listening. I was learning a lot because then I was going to the clients, for example, like I don't know, the big brands marketing manager, they were calling me in Milano, and also because we were in a cool spot, like hot spot for that, and that also was another key factor for us, that we were in one of the three main cities in the world for fashion, so
Mm-hmm.
people were like, we had access to all the companies they were calling us and say, oh guys, you are the blog guys, what can we do together? They didn't know because it was something completely new for them, and as we were 23, 24, so we could easily, understand what we were speaking about. But maybe the marketing manager of Dior was 45, so it was a bit
Yeah.
harder for him to get into what is a blog, how can we work together, what can we do together. So in that moment, we started hiring people, creating solution. Indeed, as I was saying, like I was listening to them, they needed more experiential content, more faces enjoying the event and doing all the storytelling. They needed, a different kind of entertainment, as much as we needed that as people, as users. So just what we just tried to do as best as we could was just creating high quality content, because what we really realized immediately is that they were not expecting that we were high quality people, because they were just saying, oh, these are,
Oh, you're just a
just
blog,
little
right? Whatever.
kids, yeah, just blog, just whatever, like, but now it's a trend, so we have to do that, because literally this was the thing. Like they were saying, I don't get what you're doing, I'm not really into that, and I don't want to be, but everybody is doing that, so I will do that. Okay, so basically this is what was doing. The cool thing is that we really invested a lot in a team in creating cool editorial stories, cool contents, like high quality contents. So then they were very happy because they were spending like 1/10 that working with high professional, established photographer and whatever. They were getting
Yep.
not the same content, but quite good. So they were saying, oh, okay, you know what? Let's do that again. So at that point, it became like a sort of really like a positive mechanism that was working very well.
Was that access that you guys were getting, was that really what was driving interest in the blog? Like this kind of behind the scenes, you get to see from like what feels like a normal person's perspective, what a Dior fashion show is like, right? Or what, you mentioned a few things in there in terms of what drove your success, right? So one, good timing, right? So you're early in the market. By the way, I love that you're drinking a beer and I'm drinking a coffee. It shows our two different time zones. Yeah, cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. It's 6 p.m. here, so it's perfect for a beer.
8 a.m. here. So one, I think, you're early, right? Which is good, right? So like for us, we were very early on the influencer side, and so it helped us too.
Yeah.
Two, you said location. So you were in the right place, right? So being in Milan gave you access. I think now what we see is a lot of the content creators that are successful are based in LA, right? Because that's where everybody else is, right? Three, I think from a content perspective, you mentioned that you were trying to create really good quality content. What do you mean by really good quality, right? Because you have the content that you need to create for the, brands, but then I think the audience is also equally as important. So,
Absolutely.
What else would you say? Was there anything else that contributed to your success? Because most people don't start a blog and then have 30,000, daily views in less than a year. What were the factors that drove that part of the success?
Not easy collecting all of those, but for sure, as I was saying, like the aim for quality, the the sort of professional approach that we had toward companies. Like again, they were thinking of meeting kids coming out from university. They didn't know how to work. We tried to have a really professional approach. So trying to learn how to deliver a proper presentation about a project, a proper a basic thing like a proper email written properly with all the also not just the substance but also the form that they needed. So that was something that for sure helped. And when I say that we try to be as professional as possible, also because we hired professionals from the industry. So as soon as we were finding somebody in the field that knew what we were talking about, but also maybe had a bit of an experience into a corporate, like we were immediately trying to hire and bring in our team, because we knew that what we were missing was the corporate approach, because we didn't have any kind of experience in that.
Yeah.
So that was for sure something interesting. Then again, as I was saying, like we try to invest a lot in the content. So we tried also to work with photographer. Like we really try to invest. And we are speaking about 2010. So unfortunately, it was not like today. Today, the entry barrier are a lot lower, because with an iPhone you can do really the best contents possible. Back in the time, no. So we had to buy cameras, upgrade, and buy new lenses, and again invest money in that, and then invest money in getting a photographer. I studied, for example, also photography to try to help. I did like a couple of days courses with professional photographers that they were helping me, and then they were trying to create our taste, going really to photography exposition and whatever. Like we really were trying to grow and learn as much as we could, because there were really a lot of a lot of things that we had to learn. Because as I was telling you, even HTML, like today you just open your Instagram account and it's done. For us, no. Like for us, we had a blog. Like Instagram was not there, Snapchat was not there, the word selfie was not there. I always say this because it's really giving you the
Well, I mean, this is pre-Instagram. I mean, even Facebook was just kind of getting going, I feel like, at that point, 2009, 2010, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. So, but I mean, I think that all these kind of things, the fact that we were Italian also was very, very important. That Chiara was Italian, obviously, because the fact that she was credible in speaking about fashion. Like, probably if she would have been... I don't know, like, but just even Spanish, it was different, because, and I mean, there are great influencers from Spain. I'm not saying that, but in that period in which was not something established, being Italian, speaking about style, also traveling around Italy, and also another key factor, we were really open to the world. Like we were literally traveling every week around the world. And this also was something that was kind of new for that moment. Like it was not normal 10 years ago to be every week on a plane, to go a different place. But for us it was, because we really were curious. And that was something I think was one of the factor, the X factor, because we were going 1 week in Brazil, 1 week in Japan, 1 week in Russia, 1 week in the US. So we were really trying to explore the world, share this with our users, with our followers, the readers of the blog, but also try to create network, connect, and learn from every place we were going, to try to assimilate. So I really think that no one of these factors could change your life, but altogether, yes.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like just a really exciting time in general, right? Like on the cutting edge, totally new things, totally new space. I think we had that early on where, I was like 26. I think I was 25 when we started Tribe. And I'm 26 and I'm advising CMOs and VPs of marketing. And it's like, what? Like, why are you asking me for advice? Like, how do you...
Yeah.
But it's exciting.
It is.
So I think those are some of the positives, for you guys. What were some of the mistakes that you made? Like, what were things that you went into it and it didn't work out, right? Like I tried this and like, oh, wow, we learned that didn't work, or this didn't work. Were there any specific lessons that you remember there?
I mean, really generic. I mean, there are many particular things that didn't work out. Like, I mean, going in a place that we realized no one was liking, speaking about a brand that we realized no one was liking, or I mean, even I mean, project that maybe for any kind of reason didn't work out, but telling you that we really did something that was a big mistake. I cannot tell you. As I was telling you, like before, like earlier, like it's a bit hard to point out the mistakes because how to say, like really no one did different from us, you know. So I really cannot tell you. I really cannot tell you if we did mistakes or not, because I don't know if there was a better way, you know. So
there's nobody to compare yourself to.
Like, for example, when we started our the shoe brand called Chiara Ferragni Collection that we started in 2012 or 2013, something like that, a lot of people were saying, guys, you are crazy, you are making a lot of money with advertising, but if now you start selling your own products, everybody will not, you know, pay you anymore to advertise other products. But me, I was saying, to me, if we manage, you know, to keep this balance, it's gonna be okay, you know, like, because why not? Like, already I'm speaking about 12 different brands. So if I am speaking about Gucci, Prada, and Dior, no one is jealous of each other, okay? So why they should jealous of something that is not even really that level? And at the same time, we were completely aware, as we are today, that for any kind of influencer that is doing her own brand, it's really important to keep all the other brands, because anyway, it's interesting for the public, because no one can be interested in just one thing, in just one brand. And even if you have to start up a brand, positioning in the middle of very cool high-end brand, it's just gonna make better the position of that brand, because like you get on a window and you find a shoe from Prada, a shoe from Gucci, a shoe from this, and then you find the shoes from whatever. That whatever is gonna immediately gain a lot of point, you know, in your mind. So, for example, that a lot of people, they were suggesting wrongly that we were doing wrongly to launch that. It turned good. So again, I don't know if we made it turn good, or was just a good idea in general. But that was something that, for example, was very, very, let's say, a tough decision that we got. That because a risky decision that we got, but it turned good. I mean that was good. That was good. Like maybe we could have changed the brand, because maybe calling exactly with the name was a bit. Helped a lot in the short term, obviously, because of the popularity of Chiara. In the long term, is making that way more complicated, I think, because anyway, it's very linked to the image of the celebrity. The celebrity in general becomes quite linked to the brand, and if something is happening to the celebrity, the maybe, I don't know, whatever, like even personal decision of moving on another place, and I don't know, going fishing in Tanzania and not work anymore. Anyway, you know, there is a name. So that maybe today I would have changed that. But again, probably if I didn't do 10 years ago, I wouldn't know today, you know, so.
I mean, it's tough to, like, we see, I mean, obviously there's a ton of brands that have been created that are, you know, eponymous with the founder, right? Where they have the same name as the founder. And I think historically investors have shied away from those brands because it's just very high risk, right? Because what if, okay, I buy the company and then, you know, the founder doesn't care anymore, or I buy the company and the founder goes and crazy, right? Like, what do I do? And so, but at the same time, I think that, you know, people are getting a lot more comfortable with that. And I think that over time, you know, it becomes more and more disconnected from the celebrity, I think, the bigger the brand gets. Which is actually a question that I had. So, you know, around the time that you left, right? So you left, I think, 2016 or 2017, something like that?
Mid 2017.
Okay. So around the time that you left, what were the revenue splits? Like how much was coming from the collection? How much was coming from advertising? How much was coming from, you had the crew, right? Which was more like an agency as well. Yeah.
Yeah, kinda, but basically mostly internal agency.
Okay.
Let's say that, yeah, I will give you numbers that I don't remember if they are completely precise, sincerely, but
Yep.
more or less the revenues of 2017, they should have been something like around 5-6 millions, all the blonde salad and Chiara image business. So
Yep.
basically the revenues from advertising, the sales on the blonde salad, because the blonde salad became also an e-commerce apart from the brand. And the brand was more between 15 20 million. Now I don't remember,
Okay.
because every year was quite oscillated, but yeah, around that amount. So let's say that all together was more than 20 million.
Well, I'd have to say the launching the brand sounds like it was a good decision if it was 75% of the revenue.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, obviously with a completely different marginality, but yes. I mean, speaking about the business, was definitely a good decision.
Yeah. And then talk to me about kind of leaving a company that you helped start, right? So you started this company from the ground up. And obviously, for those that don't know, you and Chiara dated at the beginning for a long time, but ultimately, separated and then continued running the business. What
More
was it
than
like?
5 years.
Yeah. What was it like kind of walking away from a business that you had been in for so long, right? Like, I don't know how long that is, almost 8 years, 9 years. Yeah.
Yes, I mean 7 years, because we started basically in 2000 beginning. The blog started in 2009, but then the real business started in 2010, and in 2017 I left. I mean, it's hard. It's a very tough decision, very very tough decision. But exactly for the same reason that the investor, as you were saying, they don't want to invest maybe, or they are shy investing in this kind of business. At the same time, if you're partnering with a celebrity in something that is around those personalities, you take the risk that the day that something, I mean, if you're not aligned anymore, for sure you will be the one leaving, not the other, because the other one it's not gonna happen, because anyway the business is related. So I try to be more rational, rational as possible. And I understood that what I could give in that moment and what I could learn from that reality was almost over. And Chiara and me, we had very, different sort of entrepreneurial mindset at that point. To me, was the moment to start, after learning for many years, to start really investing in the future. But for her was a completely different moment of her career. She was really a huge celebrity that wanted to do other things, focusing on herself, on her. And there is no right or wrong. It's just obviously when you partner with somebody, and again, it's not just a celebrity or not, but in general, when you partner with somebody at a certain point, could happen that you take different path, because life brings you to different path. You have different experiences, maybe personal experiences or whatever. So maybe at a certain point you get a different point, and we exactly got at that point. She wanted to invest a lot more on herself. Me, I wanted to invest a lot more in my entrepreneurial attitude and managerial attitude. So like really building a business, a platform, something. So I just decided, and as I realized it was not my partner was not aligned with me, I was the one that had to leave. So that was happened. It's not easy, definitely not, because you feel that you gave so much, that you invested so much energy, so much time. But again, as I was telling you also before again about the brand or whatever, apart from the economic side that can be satisfactory or not, but what you learn in experience like that, also as my first experience, is absolutely the greatest richness that I could get from that. And I know that still today it's one of the key factor that is driving me in take one decision or the other, investing in a process, advising a company. I really I'm really grateful for whatever I had. So I'm really happy for every single experience that I had in the blonde salad experience. And I don't have any regret. And that, I think, it's the most important thing. Everything I did because I was really believing and I was really passionate about that. And thankfully, it has been a great success. I think it couldn't even have been growing even more. But again, I was not the only one leading the company. So that's it.
Totally. And I think it's really easy to understand the motivations on both sides, right? It's like for her,
yeah.
she's gone on to continue to do very well, right? In the path that she ultimately led. And I think it's hard to, on your side, say, no, let's make you this, right? Which is, it's tough. It's tough. But I think it's, everybody, I think, wins in the end, right? So let's talk about your business philosophies a little bit. So one of the things that I noticed as kind of a general theme is this kind of long-term approach, right? Long-term thinking. So some of the things that you mentioned in the other interviews and articles I read were, quality over quantity when it came to content, only partnering with brands that elevated your image, even if the other one was going to pay you a lot of money, or taking the DNA of your brand very seriously, right? So tell me a little bit about kind of how that evolved. Like what brought you to thinking that a long-term approach was the right way to think about things? And then how has that changed the way that you approach business, right? Like, how do you plan? Like, I'd love to hear just a little bit about that specifically.
But I think that somehow this is a big part of my mindset, and it's something that probably come with your, characteristic, and not necessarily even about this, not necessarily that's the right decision, but that's the right decision for me, as I like to work. So I am a very empathic and emotional person. So I like to build up emotion. And for myself, up to me, for myself, like an emotion is something that give me memories, give me depth, in the relation. So even building up for me, for example, long-term relationship with companies, it's something very important because it's gonna motivate me a lot more in working hard for that company, in working hard for that project, in really building up, building up something. I think that probably I listened too many times in my teenagerhood the song from Morchiba, Rome wasn't built in a day, because I really got that, and I really made that my kind of my mindset. I really believe that if you want to do Rome, for sure, you can be very lucky or super smart, but both things are quite aleatory, because even being super smart, to me, you can be, but not necessarily all the condition can be there for you in that moment. So I prefer to think of doing well for a long time is going to bring to result. At that point, no matter what, but I'm sure it's going to bring result. Because, pushing hard immediately for the immediate result, you can be very lucky, or you can, be very good in that. It's not my case. I am lucky, but I don't want to count on that. You know what I mean? So I want to count on the hard work and the long-term strategy. If then luck helps me better, But I wanna be independent from that. So this is something that absolutely always have been my sort of mindset in doing things, in doing project. Sometimes, and this is obviously affecting a lot what I'm doing even today. For example, I'm not investing in project that could be easy money immediately, or are already planning of making an exit tomorrow. First of all, doesn't really happen usually, because they're not going to ask you to invest if tomorrow they are thinking about doing an exit. But anyway, I prefer to invest in very early stage in projects that have a long path in front of them, because in that way, as my mindset is that, I know that I can help them grow, and I will be the kind of investor that will there even in 5 years helping them. other kind of I'm not a fund. I don't have investor behind me. I don't have KPIs for my investment. I just wanted to get into interesting projects. So if those projects are interesting, I want to be involved, and I want to be involved for a while if they if they are interesting, because I like them. So why should I think about getting outside? And this is exactly also what I'm doing, for example, for when I work, let's say, as an influencer, as I also do that. I also thought, like, I don't want to get easy money doing 3 posts for this amount of money, because first of all, the, let's say, influencer revenues, maybe it's the 10% of my revenue. So I have, obviously I'm in a very easy position in which I can handle that with the left hand, and it's not going to be a problem. But in reality, I think that the approach that I set up a few years ago in this kind of relationship, probably it's a very healthy approach that is going to be more and more, I think, common in the future. Because I'm speaking only to companies that, first of all, I am a client. So if I'm not a client, I will not be authentic in communicating that to my followers. First of all, because they are not following me because I am an influencer, because I'm not a influencer as common sense. I'm not doing that as a job. So they will expect from me even more authenticity in what I'm saying, in what I'm sharing. Second, I cannot work with 3,000 company. I have to pick 3-4, that's it. Because I don't really have the time or the occasion to go to all the events, all the things. So I have to really select well. And again, I'm a very bad actor, so I'm not able to fake it. So if I wanna share cool contents, I really must have fun in doing that. So that's why I picked one company in the watch industry, one company in the fashion industry, one company in the car industry, one company in the beverage industry, that are really aligned with my taste, are really brands that I would buy. I mean, usually I buy. So but as I'm picking few, obviously I know that I can deploy more value if we build up a long-term relationship. So with all this company, I build up yearly relationship. So it's going way over just the posting or not posting. Also because I am not so strong, as you were saying, I have 300,000 followers, but that maybe for an entrepreneur it's a lot, but for an influencer it's nothing. So obviously what I have to try to give them, it's a lot more value than just the visibility on my social media channel. So I know that if we build up a long-term relationship, I will be able to deliver a lot bigger value. So that's also how, for example, this mindset is reflecting in this world. Say, okay, few, not so many company, but well done. So I will give you my advice. Even if you have to organize an event, I will give you my advice about who inviting, who not inviting. You have to gift a product, you have to launch a new capsule. I will help you, even from the strategic point of view, from the advisory point of view. And because in this way, even more, I feel part of the brand. So I'm wearing a Brooks Brothers every single day because I love the product, because I love the company, and I feel very, I became friends of all the top managers, the managers, even the people in the stores, like the sales associate in the store, because I am really hanging out with them, So I'm really connected with the team. I'm really connected with the brand because I like the heritage. I like the story. I like that they dressed 50 US presidents. So as I'm obviously aiming to be in the 51st. So I'm kidding, but seriously, it's just a matter of probably I'm 34. I got that. At 34, I got how I am, and that I can give a lot bigger value in that way than in another. It wouldn't work for me, so I would get bored probably soon. So because I don't see really value creating. When you are somebody that like to create value, it takes time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm very aligned with that. I think that one of the biggest mistakes that people make earlier in their careers is thinking about what's going to be the next year, right? Or what's going to be the next few years. It's like, no, you're going to be working for 40 years, 50 years. Like, what do you want to do in 40 or 50 years? And then how does that get you closer to that goal, right? I think I've said it on the podcast before, but the quote I always liked from Bill Gates was, people always overestimate what they can do in a year and always underestimate what they can do in a decade, right? In 10 years. And so,
very true, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan. It's really cool to hear you say that. And I think, again, like you said, other people have different approaches. It doesn't mean this is the only one that works. But I think for me, it's the one that I'm a big believer in as well. Even though, obviously sometimes you make mistakes in short-term thinking, you try to be long-term as much as you can.
But I totally agree. And again, if you have a short-term approach in dealing with a project, if you do a mistake, you have a very short time to get over that. But if you reason on a long term, you can do mistakes, you can learn from that and do better after. And this is something that, as I am it's quite bizarre because I am very, very conservative in my personal life, but I am very impulsive in my business life. So I think that I am the kind of entrepreneur that I prefer to do and then learn to do, instead of learning how to do that and then starting doing it. I'm definitely the opposite. So for me, it's fundamental thinking on a long term, because probably I will do mistakes and learn how to do better. And for sure, in the long term, I can make probably better of somebody that before tried to learn how to do that and then did. Because anyway, you cannot learn as much as you do while you are doing. I don't know if it is correct English. Sorry, but did you get the concept right?
I'm the exact same way, right? So for me, it's like we decided to do this podcast, and we actually did it before COVID, right? So this was in February. And I was like, I really want to do a podcast. I think everybody internally was like, okay. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. And they're like, what? And so that week I emailed Ipsy, who's a partner of ours. And I was like, hey, can I use your studio space in LA for these 2 interviews on Thursday? This is on Monday. And they're like, yeah, sure. So then I emailed some friends in LA. I'm like, hey, do you want to come do an interview? And so then they agreed. So then I wrote out the questions for the interview and then did it Thursday and shot 2 of them that day, and then flew down, I think, the next week and shot 2 more. And then I just sent the team okay, here's all the videos. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, I shot all the videos. Here you go. And they're like, oh shit. I guess we're doing a podcast, And they were more involved than that. But I think generally, I'm again, and there were many mistakes that I made in those early podcasts. In the first one, I must say, or the second one, I say the word yes 150 times. Yes. And I shouldn't tell people that. It's so annoying. I didn't even know it. But again, that was the way that I learned, right? Was by doing it. So again, it's not everybody's approach. Other people like to plan, and that's good. But for me, I think starting and then learning is the exciting way to do it.
Totally agree.
So you've been an investor, right, in a bunch of different companies. So what, for you, obviously long-term thinking, I would imagine, is something that you look for when you're investing in a company. But what are the other things you look for in the leader of these other businesses? Because I know you cited that, for you, delegation and finding really great leaders is kind of one of the things that you look for. What do you look for in those leaders when you're investing in those businesses?
This is one, I think, of the hottest question in the venture capital world, but it is, it is one of the most fundamental. So it's absolutely right to try to, let's say, to explore. So, my approach is absolutely, as you said, something long term. But my approach is that I like people. I don't like ideas, because as we all know, because this is quite common. This is quite known also in this industry. Probably the idea accounts for the 1% of the possibility of the success. The 99% is made by the execution. The execution are made by the people, and the people are hired by the leader and the founder usually. So everything is starting from that person, sorry, or I mean maybe that bunch of people if it is 2-3 co-founder, because I've never started anything by myself. I'm definitely quite aware that I cannot do everything, so I prefer to have people that are doing well what I'm not definitely able. So I'm trying to look first of all for the passion in that person, for what she is doing, because the big thing is that today it's not 2009, for example, when I started. It's not 2004 when Mark Zuckerberg started. It's not we are in a moment. Obviously, I'm not making a comparison between me and Mark, but just saying that there have been moments in which an industry was started, like Facebook. It has been the biggest social media world breakout. When we started, it was the moment in which everybody in the influencer world was. When everything was starting in the influencer world, like. There are quite interesting moments, and if you are not, but today it's not like today we have millions of apps, millions of influencers, millions of startuppers all around the world. We are in a very competitive world because you are competing with potentially with any other human on earth, because the world is global and there are, I think, lower entry barriers to entrepreneurship than ever, probably. So you really need somebody that is really passionate about what he's gonna do, because if he's not gonna have enough passion, for sure he's gonna give up. So probably before the right moment, because as you know, I don't know if you experienced exactly the same thing, but me, for example, me personally, I experienced in my life, and I can see like many times maybe you struggle for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and then from a day to the other, the business completely changed, because finally the market is mature for your business. Finally enough customers understood your business, and the word of mouth is exploding. Like there are many factors that maybe can get aligned and make that. But is that founder the right person to be passionate enough till that moment? So this is the first question that you have to do. To make, to yourself when you are speaking to somebody, because not necessarily the passion only about the industry, but in general the passion for the business, the passion for the project, the ambition, the determination. There are all these kind of let's say soft skill that you really have to look for into the founder. Then obviously the capability also to handle and to hire other people, I think it's something very important, because again, as I was saying, that's the starting point of everything. Not every company, and I think very few they have an HR manager in the beginning. So the CEO and the founder, he is the HR manager for probably the first few years of the company. So that person must have a sort of empathy, must have a sort of capability to understand people, to motivate them, to align them with his vision, and obviously this is going through many characteristics, like the capability to share the vision, the ability to involve and motivate. And from a talk you can understand that person. You can understand those kind of things from a call. I'm not really the kind of guy that is evaluating if you have the right cost per acquisition of your customer, if you have the right, all those kind of hard skill, I think that you can learn. And I have people in my team that can teach you, you know what I mean? So that's not a big deal. First thing, I want to understand if you have the soft skill for that, because if you don't have, I cannot teach you. I'm not saying that it's your mom that should do that, but I don't know who should do that, but not me. I cannot do that, So, but other things I can help you in getting, or me, or maybe other investor, or maybe anyway other stakeholder. So that's what really I like. As I was telling you even before about marketing, I really like the human side of marketing as I like the human side of entrepreneurship. So I am way more sensitive to that, so I try to evaluate that. Then obviously it happened a few times that I really like the person, Then with my, for example, with my investment manager, that person was completely unable to handle the business because came out that really he didn't have any kind of let's say ability to plan the numbers, the economics behind the business, to point out exactly the right business model. So we decided anyway not to get on board because really was would have been too hard to help them. Like, we are just two people in my holding company, so it's me and my investment manager. So we know that obviously our resources, both economics and human workforce, are limited. So we try to find the best trade-off also in the kind of project that we get in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, when you look at most businesses, I think having both somebody who can recruit and sell and market the business and be that human element, and also having somebody who's going to be able to forecast, understand the numbers, et cetera, is also critical. I think for us, we invested in that pretty heavily over the last couple of years, because I think for the first quite a few years of the business, it was really just a feel thing, right? Just kind of feeling it out. And of course, we were making more money than we were losing, and we were running the business in a responsible way. But I think understanding the numbers in a really deep way is meaningful. But I think on your side, where that matches up as well on the investment philosophy, is part of the reason that you're investing is to build these relationships over time. So making sure that this is somebody that you want to invest in, not only for today, but that you want to work with for 10, 20, 30 years maybe, is important, right? Like building out that community or network. Like, I want all the people that we've ever worked with to be somebody that we might work together again, right? Especially the people that are very good. And so, thinking about things in that way, I think is pretty critical. So let's talk about one of your investments. I was looking through all your different investments, and they're all very interesting. But given that we don't have, I could talk for hours, but we're going to try and be smart with our time. One of the ones that stood out was Depop, right? Just for specifically for our audience, I think it's very interesting. And for those that don't know, they do, I believe it's like secondhand clothing. You can go on and sell your own clothes or buy clothes from other people. And they've gone to do very well, it seems. One of the things that you talked about was you got involved early on when they had about 100,000 users, and then you really focused on helping them build out their influencer strategy. And obviously that's the reason that a lot of people come to us, right? So what were the specific tactics that you used or that you recommended for Depop? And then do you think influencers had a pretty big role in their growth? And if so, what were the tactics? Did it have a big impact? And, what worked and what didn't for Depop specifically, if you remember?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of remember. I'm old, but not so old.
Well, we're about the same age. I'm like a year younger than you. So, I have some things I forgot too.
Unfortunately, you're completely right. Me too. I'm starting forgetting many things. But no, I remember. I remember because it was. Was quite fun this period. Like, basically in the beginning, as you mentioned, when I jumped on the project, when Simon Beckerman, the founder, asked me to help him, it was 2013, I think. For example, I'm very bad in remembering the timing.
Yeah. A while ago.
I think it was. Yeah, a while ago. It was probably 2013. And there were around 150,000 active users. So basically, for sure, it was something that, was already, starting working. But the real challenge was to scale it up, as it was something very niche back in the time, was something, okay, like there is somebody that wants to sell those things, their things, how to bring this at another level. And obviously it was already 2-3 years that I was working full-time on the Blonde Salad and in general in the influencer world. Because, for example, in 2011, I founded the first influencer agency in Milan. So probably one of the first in the world, because it was 10 years ago. So I really was experiencing, a strong experience. Sorry for the repeating. A strong experience into the influencer world. So I realized how they could really, let's say, apart from bringing people, but they could really enjoy using Depop, those kind of figure, because of the gifting, because of the maybe even collab, because of their own brands or whatever. So basically, it was an easy platform, very easy, because it had exactly the layout of Instagram back in the time. So it was basically an Instagram with a sell button, or a buy button. So the idea is, okay, it's very easy for our target. We want to get people that are that it's very easy for them to let's say layout. So for people that are active on Instagram, that are following, that are interested in fashion. So what better than fashion influencer, to do that? So basically we started also with the idea of using a sort of pyramidal system. So let's start from the top. Let's take the biggest, because then probably the second, third tier influencer, blogger, because back in the time where probably we were still using the blogger word, like they were saying, probably they will jump on board, because if they see that top influencers are using, they will follow. And basically this is what happened. What also did Depop that was great was really established in every country, like in UK mainly, in Italy, I think also probably in Spain, in France, I don't remember exactly, then obviously in US. They established little offices where there was somebody helping the influencer to handle their store. So this was very easy, because a big influencer that is traveling, getting a lot of gifts, having a lot of products, they don't have the time, to take every single piece, take a picture, do all the community management and stuff like that. So they gave for free this kind of service at the top influencer that wanted to join. And this was something that we put all together, we put all together this kind of strategy. We realized that when we were proposing influencers, they were really enjoying and they were getting on board in this project. Some of those, they were donating all the revenues to charity or to NGOs. Some of those maybe a part. Some of those, they were selling maybe the products coming from other even from their brands or whatever. So this not only, I think, brought a lot of people on Depop, but had probably a second effect that I think we were not even expecting. If I remember well, we were not even expecting that. Brought people to think that they could also sell not necessarily second-hand thing, but in general cool thing. So basically started also the phenomena of the Depopper, the real Depopper, that are those people that live thanks to Depop. So they go around, for example, in the weekend for the vintage market, they collect cool things, they go home and they create a cool store. Basically, they are a sort of buyer, of their own little store on Depop. And these, for Instagram, having the top content creator is fundamental to have cool content. That's exactly the same thing for Depop. Basically, I always said that Instagram basically made people editor-in-chief of their life and their profile, as much as Depop made people head of buyer of their e-commerce, So in a very easy way, because then every time the important thing is to make it easy, because when we started, as I was saying, when we started for blogger, we needed a camera, professional camera, downloading picture, modifying, uploading, HTML, like too complicated. Few things wanted to go, through that bullshit. But then Instagram, opened the world to many other people that maybe they had even bigger talent in content creation, but the technical aspect were limiting. Depop did exactly the same. Like even small little businesses, a small vintage store, they created their profile. Peep collectors, they created their profile on Depop, and this really helped to make it, go big, because if you were finding cool things and not just the old stuff that you didn't want anymore or super used and stuff like that, obviously made also the platform way more attractive for the public.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, the kind of enabling them to become basically merchants, right, of their own little stores is super cool. So let's talk about, so we're kind of on the topic of influencers. So we'll do 2 more questions, and then we'll do the last couple end of show fun questions. So the first of the last 2 would be, on the influencer side, if you were advising a brand, say you invested in a new luxury brand that's just getting started. Obviously Depop is different, right? It's a store, it's a different experience, but as a brand, what would be your advice to them when they're approaching the influencer space? They say, hey, Riccardo, I know I need to invest in influencers. It's a new luxury brand. What would you tell them to do? Like, what would be the first steps and philosophies you think would be good for them?
I am doing that, so I can tell you
exactly there you go.
I'm doing.
I figured you were.
So basically, the first thing that I am suggesting, that by the way, it's not just something that you should do if you want to invest in an influencer, but you should do anyway. It's really trying to understand what kind of personas you want to reach, because I really watched these phenomena during the past year. Like we really got sort of drunk of numbers, and we completely forgot about the targets, the audience that we wanted to reach, because it's like the big difference from the past of Instagram was that you had the number of followers, and before was not possible to understand a magazine how many copies was selling, a TV show how many people had in that moment viewing, watching that show. What really Instagram, the big news that Instagram, the social media in general, brought is numbers, like the direct numbers. So we all got so focused on that, but we forgot all the rest. So now I think that it's time to get back to that. And because as we have a more evolved culture about influencer, about social media in general. So now what is really important is, okay, I have this beer. This beer is Italian, is average quality, is tasty but not too much, blah, blah, blah. So what kind of people I can reach, I can sell this? Okay, it's that person, perfect. How those people are getting entertained? This is what it's really important. How those people are getting influence in their consumption. So get on those, on those factor of influence. That maybe it's not for example, I want to sell a new car to a guy. Probably they're not gonna follow the biggest fitness influencer or whatever, even if he has 5 million. Obviously, statistically speaking, out of 5 million, probably somebody interested there's gonna be. But what is the ROI? What is the return on investment? How much I have to pay to have one post with that guy, when maybe that little collector of watches that is sharing only 30,000 euro watches, maybe he has only 20,000 followers, but those 20,000 followers, probably the 90% are prospect clients for my, Mercedes-Benz car. So probably if I found 10 of those profile, I can sell way more cars with way lower investment than just getting one big influencer, lifestyle influencer or fitness influencer, travel influencer, whatever, that is reaching a way, a huge amount of people. And by the way, with maybe even a topic that it's not very related to his kind of editorial strategy. This is something that these are for me the main topic. Like, check a person what kind of audience that person have, if it is in line with the kind of customers that you have and the way that they get entertained. And then if you want to ask him to create contents about you, be sure that those contents will be authentic on his page, because unfortunately sometimes influencers are way influenced themselves by money, by, maybe even the ambition of working with few brands and stuff like that. But at the same time, they're not taking in consideration that maybe they are speaking about something that is not, or
that their audience just won't
natural.
be interested in, right? And that they aren't.
Indeed.
I mean, we take it kind of, I think, a step further in saying, like, you should really only work with people that are either already talking about you or talking about brands similar to you, right? So like, okay, let's go and find the people that maybe they're either talking about me as a car brand, or they're talking about brands that are similar to me, right? Close to me. And so I know that their audience is interested in this content, right? So like, for you, it's like, for you as an influencer, if I was a motorcycle brand, if I'm Triumph, right? Like, Riccardo is my number one, right? Like, I need to go find him right now because
I am Triumph customer since 20 years.
There you go, right? So like, you're a customer, you ride the bike, you see it in the content, right? Like, and so when you partner with them, it's much more authentic, right? Just like your Brooks Brothers discussion. And so for me, and then on top of that, I think what that does is then everybody else goes, oh, wow, look at Triumph. Wow, that's so cool. They're partnering with somebody that's a really big fan, right? They worked with Riccardo, even though he's not Johnny Depp, who has, tens of millions of fans, but he has 300,000 and he's really interested in our products, right? And so I think having that approach makes a ton of sense. And then again, like you said with yourself on the creator side, having a long-term approach to those relationships. It's not just about one piece of content or one campaign, but like, I want this to be somebody I work with for 10 years, 20 years, like really long time.
Yeah.
Right.
Fundamental.
Okay. And then so I think the last serious question is, I think you're the first person on the podcast.
I'm starting, sorry, but I'm starting getting scared about the two funny questions.
We'll see if you answer them on air. So on the book side, so that's what I wanted to talk about was books, right? So I think you're the first person to write a book of the podcast, which is fun. So tell me about that process. Like, what was the purpose in writing the book? And then, what was the process? Like, was it hard? Was it easy? What were the hard parts? Would love to hear about that. And I think you've written 2 books now and you're working on a third. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, true. Okay. True. By the way, I have really to congratulate with you about all the information that you got and how precise you were in your, researching, because you have way more information than what I have about myself. So that's a really great job.
You have no idea. I've watched multiple interviews, read the articles. I watched your wedding video, which is actually a question that I skipped because it's like, that's like, I can't imagine putting my wedding online, and that's, but that's a whole thing. So anyway, so let's talk about books. Let's focus on that.
Okay.
So what was the thinking in terms of writing the books, and then what were some of the hard parts about writing it?
So what was the thinking? Basically, I'm a person that I like to share certain type of contents. Okay, I like to share my experience. For example, during coronavirus, during COVID quarantine, me too. I created podcast. I interviewed few people. I did the Instagram live because I like to share. I like to share the idea of doing. Because maybe even because I am Italian and I am in a one of the social economy, or let's say society, in which is hardest to change your path in life. In Italy, like they always say that statistically, it's one of the country in the world where you have, obviously I'm speaking about Western world, let's say, first tier economically speaking world, in which if you are born from people making bread, probably you will just open a store of bread, but not farther, because of tradition, because of rule, because of bureaucracy, because of heritage, because of many things. So I really like the idea that we can go over that, we can bring Italy to a more let's say, okay, I mean, we have a great tradition, great story, great art, whatever, but all of that is in the past. We have to look at the future and try to exploit that to change our lives if we want. And by sharing my experience, I hope just that can be an inspiration for other people to reason as I did. Me, I just reason many times in my life. I thought, wow, I'm doing something that I wouldn't never expected to do yesterday, and I feel good. So it's just sometimes just a matter of freedom, in your mindset. And so, unfortunately, for many reasons, as I was saying, in Italy, this is probably hard. So I like to share those kind of contents. And at a certain point, I was starting thinking, sincerely, about writing a book about my entrepreneurial experience. And when I decided to leave the blonde salad, so to, let's say, close the first phase of my career, of my, very brief career back in the time, because it was just 7 years, 8 years, I said, okay, this is the right moment to write it, to share, first of all, and second, to remember. Because this is something that I already heard somebody that is writing book to remember, and I'm saying that I'm very, very thrilled to read my first book, even today. Indeed, I was thinking to go back reading that in August, but in reality, I'm very thrilled to read that in 5 years and try to see what I was thinking back in the time, what I learned back in the time about business, what was my experience, what was my knowledge, what was my mindset. And first of all, because maybe I can get lost in the future. And second, because it's a sort of diary. Indeed, I really wrote that with this mindset. So that's why, thankfully, I receive a lot of compliments for mostly for how it is written. So I receive a lot of compliments of people saying, "Wow, it really looks like you are speaking to your best friend." But that's exactly how I thought about that. I wanted to have this kind of tone of voice, like I was speaking to my best friend, to my little brother, and whatever, and telling him, dude, if you are launching a business, please think global, okay? We are in 2017, 18, so you have like very basic thing. I'm not speaking about nuclear science or whatever. I'm just speaking about starting up a business. And that was really my aim, and making it easy, because we should take even making business a bit easier, I think, sometimes, because that's the best way to make business. And don't be afraid to do mistakes. Don't be afraid to be judged or whatever. Just take it easy, try, and you're gonna learn. And like writing a book, so basically this was these two things: share, try to inspire people, and also have for myself like a more egoistic aim to have a sort of diary of what I was back in the time. And this is the first book. The second book, it's a bit more responsible book, we can say, because the second book I wrote it with the aim of reminding people that social media, but because it was just something that I was feeling, that social media are a great thing, really great thing, that really they can empower people, but they can be very dangerous. So we have really to learn how to handle that and how to approach to this tool. So I wrote this book that is divided by chapter about the I don't remember exactly how you say in English, but I think the 7 vices could be. Is that right?
I think that's correct, yeah.
So basically, I divided about those as it is something very real, but at the same time, I try to speak about those from the social media point of view. So, for example, the anger, that it's one of the 7 capital vices, and saying, look at all the hating that there is on social media and how to protect, how to avoiding that, and blah, blah, blah. So basically, I always, as I experienced huge growth on social media, not myself, but in general, seeing also the people around myself, and I saw all the behind the scene of that, I really realized how dangerous can be. for the
Yeah.
public, for the people doing that, for the kids that today are approaching that. Many times I also have been called in universities to speak about the legal consequence of few activity on social media, how the world, the legislation should evolve according to that. So it's quite an important topic that our society has to face. So I just realized that I wanted to try to share that. And somehow I realized that writing books for me, it's one of probably the best way to put concept, put them in a sort of stable form, shape, and leave them at the public. I'm not so comfortable speaking about a few topics on social media, for example, and sometimes I think that on social media are a bit too fast to speak about some topics. So maybe somebody can do that. Me personally, I can't. As you can see from this interview, I quite like speaking a lot. So So
Yeah,
probably
it's great.
social media would be a too short. The span of attention is too short.
I mean, that's part of the reason that I like these really long form interviews, right? Because you just get, if you talk to somebody for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, you just don't get very much. But if you talk to somebody for an hour or an hour and a half, you actually learn a lot, right? And of course, that's not, I think you mentioned more research. You mentioned you can't please everyone with your content, right? And I think there's a lot of content out there that's 15 or 20 minutes that people love. But for me, I think I really like I'm just like the depth is where the really interesting stuff is, right? Like not just the surface level things. And so, so that makes a lot of sense. And I think in a lot of ways, the book forces you to really be certain as well. Like this is something I feel very confident in, right? And I'm willing to put it on paper. Okay. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. Okay. So last two fun questions. So one, I heard you mention that you went 200 miles per hour on a course on a motorcycle. What's the fastest you've ever gone on the streets?
Oh my God. Is this recorded, right?
You don't have to say if you don't want. You can just say very fast.
I will give you a political answer. Too fast to say, but too slow for the course. So that's okay. In the middle.
Okay. And then, obviously traveling was a really big part of, it's just been a big part of your career. What's the most obscure place, the weirdest place you ever traveled before?
Unsecure?
Obscure, like the weirdest, like most odd. Yeah.
That's an interesting question. The most, that I don't know. I don't think I've been in very weird place, like.
Or maybe most interesting. What's the most interesting place you've ever traveled?
I can tell you that I had one of the most intense and particular travel that I had in my life. It has been in China back in the time, like 8 years ago. I got a backpack. I just landed in Beijing, and from Beijing I did backpacking till New Delhi in India, and I went through Tibet and Nepal. And I have been in very weird place, that's for sure. Like very weird restaurant, very weird massage place in Tibet, very weird clubs. I remember this that was amazing. Basically in Kathmandu, We went in a place that they told us, oh, they do very great live music. Please go there and like check it. You're gonna love it because it's very characteristic. So we were in Nepal. We were like all like I was coming from Tibet, so I was all in my like spiritual mood, covered in necklace, all those kind of things that you forget 3 days after you came back. But so we went in this cafe expecting the most I don't know, playing some Nepalese, some monks plays Nepalese music. We just got inside and they were playing Blink 182. So I mean, it was the weirdest. Like they were very Nepalese looking guys. Like, by the way, they were playing very good, but they were playing punk rock, Californian punk rock. I said, oh my God. So like we really are into globalization right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a quite bizarre experience, but I mean, at the end we stayed there all the night and we had great fun. So it was fun.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Riccardo, for taking out the time. I think I learned a lot today. I'm sure everybody else did too. And good luck in your investments and with Luxottica, which we didn't even get to talk about. And and just thanks so much again for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me, and I really wish the best to your podcast listener, because I mean this tool to share knowledge, I think it's gonna be more and more important, in the future. So thank you also for what you are doing.
Yeah, bye. No problem. Awesome. Bye.
Hit subscribe now. Earned by Tribe Dynamics. Tribe Dynamics unlocks your social media influencer community. Our platform not only tracks and measures your best influencer relationships, but discovers new influencers to grow your business through earned media. Get started with a demo today at tribedynamics.com. tribedynamics.com.